rights watchdog has to say, not only talking about being illegal, but warnings of a two-tier society.
Yeah, but let's not run away with the conclusion that they're right. I mean, I've checked it out completely about vaccine passports and requested them for all staff members. And my lawyers tell me under health and safety law, as an employer, we have an obligation to protect their staff. So we're safeguarding people, we're safeguarding customers. So I'm going to tell you this, I believe they're wrong about discriminating and human rights and that type of thing. I mean, what's the big deal? We can go back to some normal life. All we've got to do is have the jab and carry the proof of the jab.
Well, Alan, you probably know that Charlie's very much behind no jab, no job policy. He's right, is he not?
He's absolutely not right. He's absolutely wrong. Let's make two distinctions. Firstly, I'm actually a fan of the exceptional rollout of vaccines in the UK. I took my mum to have it and I've had it. That's very different to demanding to see health papers to participate in normal society. The idea that we get to ask for people's health papers to allow social distancing rules to be suspended is an imposition. It also contravenes the 1984 Public Health Act over bodily autonomy. And that's in the context of no jobs and no jab, no jobs. You know, Clarence Wilcock was the person who was the last person to be prosecuted on a demand to see an ID card. And he said, I'm a liberal, I don't do that sort of thing, which led Winston Churchill to disband it. And there's something very paramount of importance here. Obviously, there's the practical considerations, and it's totally disingenuous that the government, if they really thought this is what was needed, would declare that they were going to impose it on the whole of society, are trying to do it through the back door with festivals and events and nightclubs, scaring them around the idea of social distancing. We've reached herd immunity. It's been a fantastic success. The vulnerable are vaccinated, over 50% of the UK's population, over 32 million people. Chris Whitty has said outdoor events are not a concern, very low risk. And basically, we now have a situation where we've got to the end of the tunnel with the light. We should be allowed to have normality back. This would be a draconian imposition, and it's utterly wrong.
Charlie, draconian, and also it's ID, isn't it? An ID policy through the back door here.
Yeah, Alan, look, you've made many points there, and you're telling me I'm wrong and you're right. Well, I'm afraid you are wrong on this one. It's not against human rights. We have a duty to protect people coming in. You just said half the population, I think it's 40 mil now that have had the vaccination, which means they've got proof of it. 2 to 3 more months, 90% of the population would have had it. We're talking about a very minority of people that are not going to have it. I mean, as you know, people would crawl across the snow naked at the moment to get the vaccine. What's the big deal to have the jab, show proof of it and safeguard everybody? Your business will never go back to normal if they don't show the passport. You're not going to be allowed to have full amount of capacity people in your premises. You're going to have to social distance, wear masks. I mean, do we want to go back to that?
Yeah, let Alan respond to that, Alan, because you'll be able to get more people in, as Charlie says, without social distancing. It makes sense, doesn't it?
What's the big deal? It's a very good question. Well, the big deal is this. It's absolutely the case that the majority of people will have been vaccinated and we've reached herd immunity, and that's fantastic, although a lot of young people have not. Pregnant women have not. People with underlying medical conditions will not. And some people will just choose not to. As Chris Whitty has said, we should now begin to treat this like the flu. The idea that you have to show papers if you've had the flu or not, or any other kind of health condition, is utterly wrong. The other thing is that the vaccine, it's still not clear whether it even prevents transmission. There's all sorts of ambiguity here. And the point is, and what the big deal is, that we then recreate a society that a citizen is not free to engage in normal activity without declaring on a demand, show me your papers. It's a checkpoint society and it's utterly wrong.
But wouldn't prices have to go up? Because obviously you wouldn't be able to get the amount of people into the venue. Obviously costs of running an event. This has a financial implication, isn't it?
No, absolutely
not.
Oh, Alan, of course it should be no more. No.
Let's just hear Alan first, and then we'll hear from the businessman, Charlie, in just a second. Alan.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in the industry 25 years, and there's absolutely no reason why we should have social distancing. Again, we've reached herd immunity according to UCL. The majority of people in Britain have had the vaccination which protects them. Therefore, there is no reason, a requirement for social distancing. We should be open now. That's why Sacha Lord has taken Matt Hancock to the High Court to say, why is it that now non-essential retail is opened and not hospitality? We should be back to normal with no social distancing whatsoever. We've got herd immunity. And this should be back to normal. Cry freedom.
Charlie, here's a hospitality man saying you simply don't need this.
Look, again, I'm going to say you're wrong. You also said that the government are not backing it. They are backing it. They just haven't got the balls to stand up and say everybody that can have it needs to get it done. The economy's been shut down for 12 months. We can't go travelling. We can't see our family. And now they're saying to us, there's one way out of it. Have the vaccine, have proof you've had it, and we can go back to normal. Look, there's a very minority that are not going to have it. And that, they say the only reason you shouldn't have it is underlying health
Exactly.
issues.
Yes.
The fact that you don't want it, or religion. I mean, look, if these people don't want it, then I don't think that they should be able to go
wait a
into
minute.
the
People who don't want it, but people who can't have it, Charlie, as you just said. So you're slightly contradicting yourself there.
Look, okay, the people that don't want it, I don't believe they should be allowed into business and jeopardise everybody else's health thing. If they don't want to have it, sit at home, but don't make it worse for the 90% of the people that are so much far behind it. 1 year we've been in lockdown, and if Alan says there's not going to be social distancing, then restaurants will be half empty again. Who's going to go in a restaurant or bar knowing that there's people in there that have not had the vaccine?
Charlie, I've seen a headline saying no vaccine, then pay £100 for a burger. So tell us more about the financial implications, how you see it.
It's fairly obvious. If you can't run your business as it used to run, then you're going to run at, say, 50% capacity, which means you're going to have to put staff off. You're going to have to increase prices to pay to how to run the business. And many people will lose their job if we don't have the vaccine. I mean, what is the big deal about it? What's the big deal?
Again, what the big deal is, there's two different things, and we should not confuse them. One, the majority of people have had the vaccine. We have herd immunity. The risk was primarily always to people above 70 with underlying health conditions. All of the data has demonstrated that. The demographic that we're talking about, particularly for nightclubs and festivals, primarily under 40. We've got herd immunity. There's no reason for social distancing. But actually, what's happening is, you say some people should sit at home. Actually, the people that should sit at home and not try and get publicity are people that are trying to impose measures that contravene the 1984 Public Health Act and insist that there should be no job, no jab.